I've been putting off making a YouTube channel for a little while now. And today I have accidentally, subconsciously, maybe not so accidentally and maybe quite consciously tricked myself into doing my first YouTube video. This isn't the setup that I had planned. This isn't the video that I was gonna do as my first one. But I just put something on my Instagram, and then by the time I came around to record it, I was like, this is gonna be too long for an Instagram video. It's gonna be too long for a reel, it's gonna be too long for a story. So I was like, let's just flip this phone into landscape and get it fucking done. So here's my first YouTube video. Be that first video that probably in like, I don't know, a year's time, I'll look back at and be like, fucking hell, that's so cringe. But we start somewhere. So what we're gonna go through today is these three, like, I don't know if they're like lesser known or secrets, but they're three core elements that until you grasp these at the very, very beginning of your journey into sobriety or you're trying to quit drinking, you're just gonna make things way harder for yourself than they need to be. And this is something that I see all the time. Like, not everybody that I work with is like day zero, day one sober when they come and work with me. Quite often, it's people who have had a go at it themselves and they just stay in the struggle. They stay in this suffer zone, like constantly using willpower. They're constantly having to like resist, and it's just way harder than it needs to be. So what we're gonna go into is, now that is also just a bit of like a clickbaity headline. There is more to it than this, and I'd be lying if I said it was only these things. But the first one that we're gonna go into, and this stuff is all particularly for successful men. There's a certain set of conditioning that a man has to get to a level of success, and there's a certain way that alcohol has been used and shown up in that man's life that is just very different to someone who isn't a successful man. We can try and paint society with the same brush if we want to, but that's just not real. Different people find themselves in different situations for different reasons, and the way out of those situations are different. That's just the way it is. So if you're a single stay-at-home mum and you're trying to get sober, this probably ain't a YouTube channel for you. And with that said, that's why this one is one of the hardest things for successful men to start with, which is you need to take the L. You need to take the fucking L. And this can be the hardest piece of work in itself, because successful men don't like losing. Successful men are successful because they prioritize the W. Successful men are generally quite competitive, and this can be a real hard one on the pride, on the ego, but it really does just involve, at the very beginning of this journey, having to sit down and say, it's beaten me. I don't give a fuck whether you want to call yourself an addict or not, or whatever, whether you want to use terms like quitting drinking or sober, it doesn't matter, right? You found yourself in a situation, you wouldn't have followed me on Instagram, you wouldn't have found this way to this video, and you definitely wouldn't be watching this video unless you've identified at some level that you have a fucking issue with alcohol. And that's absolutely okay. Millions of people do. And unless you really own that L and just say, do you know what? I had a good run. I've got some great memories with alcohol, but it's beaten me. We've got to the stage now where anytime alcohol is involved, it's causing more problems. It's winning. Right now, alcohol is winning and I'm losing. Taking that L is how you turn that L into the W, right? Because you're never gonna move past if you still keep living under this false pretense that you're gonna regain control and take that win back over alcohol at some point in the future. Because all that is, that's a hallucination. That is a complete fantasy. And that's this vision that you have of being somewhere in, you know, just in Tuscany with a nice glass of Chianti, or up in Scotland somewhere having a whiskey tasting. Like, that's such a fantasy. You have zero fucking evidence that you have any ability to enjoy that one glass of wine with a nice bowl of pasta, or that you have the ability to swill and taste that whiskey. You just can't. You have to let go of that fantasy. You have to take that L before you can start to turn it into a W. So the W here is ditch the fantasy. Okay, and the second one, this one is a bit more like a myth. Like, you quite often hear people say, like, like it's a choice. Like, drinking is a choice, or getting sober is a choice. And like, yes, it is a choice, but like, that's not all it is. I think shifting the mindset from choice to skill serves men way better, because the masculine energy, and masculine energy is present in all human beings, but in successful men, this masculine energy is quite strong. And the masculine is the fixing energy. The masculine energy is the decisive energy. The masculine energy is the decision-making energy. So it's very within our masculine, and maybe you've seen this with your partner or your ex-partner, where maybe they've come to you with a problem, or maybe even one of your friends, and your go-to reaction as a masculine successful man is, how can I fix that? And it doesn't always land that well, does it, bro? That's not always what the other person wants. It's not just always about this instant quick fix. And especially with sobriety, yes, there is an element of needing to make this choice, needing to make this decision. But the real challenge here is for you, again, and this is going to be a challenge to your ego, is to have to learn something. You're going to have to be bad at this before you get good at it. And the way that we get around this, from turning the choice into a skill, is to utilize skills that you, as a successful man, already have. So I use a model in my programs and in my one-on-one coaching, which is called the Art of Sobriety, which in the magic of editing is just appeared on the screen. And that stands for acceptance, resilience, and trust. I will do a separate video on that. If you're watching this like months after I've posted this, the link to that video will probably be underneath this. If you're an early adopter, founder member, respect, it's not going to be there yet. So in your life, to get to where you are, you would have already had to have used these skills. So it's all about cultivating them in safe environments, away from situations where drink and drugs are going to be. So there are so many things, and these are the things that I work on, like whether they're practices, whether they're ways of being, that can cultivate more acceptance in your life. Practice and learn and study philosophy around accepting things the way they are, and stop using so much negative energy to try and change shit that is out of your control. Because it's that leads you back to this feeling of like being defeated and wanting to escape, and what's the point? And I can't change these things, and I'm getting frustrated. These are all the things that lead you back to the fucking bottle in the first place. So the more acceptance that we can cultivate, the easier you will find this skill of sobriety. It's not just this life choice, it's a fucking skill, and you can improve and you can learn it and you can get better at it. Resilience. You 100%, like, I obviously don't know anything about your life, but you 100% have had to have shown some degree of resilience in your life to get to where you are as a successful man. Any level of success, wherever that's been in for you in the past, whether that's been in sport when you were younger, whether it was academically, whether it's been in your career, whatever it is. Yes, you might have had some natural talent, but you would have also had to display a level of resilience. And again, resilience is a skill. It's not just this personality trait that people do or don't have. Like, I used to be a fucking pussy. Like, I used to be really weak, really unhealthy in my mind and in my body. Over the last 3 years, since beginning my journey into sobriety, I identified early on that I needed to craft more resilience. And that can be done by putting yourself in the hurt locker. That can be done through self-selected suffering. And that looks different for different people. If you're a really, really sporty person, you're always out doing shit, running a marathon might not be that hard for you. Okay, then resilience for you is sitting still with your thoughts for an hour, without any music, without moving, in stillness. That's where your resilience will come from. And finally, trust. And trust has two sides to it. You might have lost the trust of some people around you, which you need to work on. Again, that will be a skill. You will have to display to them through your behavior as you are crafting this skill. that they can trust you again. But also, the real thing that's happened here is that you have lost trust with yourself. You've told yourself so many times that you would show up for yourself in a better way than you have been. You've told yourself so many times that you were going to stop drinking, that you were going to get healthy, that you were going to do this, going to do that. You don't fucking believe yourself anymore because you've lied to yourself and you've let yourself down so many times. We need to rebuild this fucking trust. Rebuild the trust that you used to have with yourself. And for you to be at this level of success that you have in other areas of your life, you probably pride yourself on being like a man of your word, and you might even criticize other people in business if they're not. But really, you're a fucking hypocrite because you keep making promises to yourself and maybe even to your partner and to your kids that you keep breaking. So this skill, these are the things that are going to make the most difference. And you'll notice here that, like, I'm not even talking about any tips or tricks for how to stop drinking, because that is not the method to do this, right? We are treating the root cause, not the fucking symptoms. When I go deeper with every single man I have worked with, there is a lack of acceptance, there is a lack of resilience, and there is a lack of trust. It's that fucking simple. I don't even need to know what they drink, when they drink, why they drink. All of that shit just takes care of itself when you focus on the art of sobriety. And number 3, meditation. Now, so my journey with meditation, it's been genuinely the most impactful thing on my journey of not just quitting drinking and getting sober, but the thing that you learn in sobriety is that when you take away this safety blanket that we've been using for so long, this crutch, like this thing that has actually given us everything we asked of it. Like, it's very easy to have this hate relationship with alcohol because you blame it, whereas realistically the truth is, every time you wanted to escape, alcohol was there for you. Every time that an uncomfortable feeling came up that you didn't want to experience, alcohol was there for you. Alcohol has done absolutely every single fucking thing that you asked it to, every time that you asked it to do it. There is a process of grief that is going to happen when you remove it, and as much as we just want to click our fingers and just not have those cravings and not keep running back to alcohol, the truth of the matter is that there's 2 sides to this. There's one which is stopping using that substance, and then there's the other that is every time that those feelings and emotions come up, you now no longer have your go-to safety blanket. That thing that you've been using for so long to emotionally regulate and escape and suppress unwanted emotions. And this is where we have to have a real fucking talk, man to man, about why we have not been equipped to deal with the shit that's going on in our head and our heart. And why we have created culturally this environment where we have to pretend that everything's okay. And I know I might come across as quite a confident and assertive guy, but I can be fucking soft. I cry. I have to deal with these things as they come up. A meditation will really be like your classroom. This is where you're going to learn so much about yourself, because it's going to start as a very simple practice. You probably download some apps, or like I even have some tools that if you want, I'll put a link below this video, of how you can guide yourself into these meditative states. But the real work in meditation is when you start to move away from those guided meditations and you start to sit by yourself, with yourself, and observe yourself without reacting to anything that comes up. And the reason why that overlaps so much into sobriety for men is because, like I said before, when we were talking about number 2, is like we're fixers. We love doing something. The idea that the thing that we need to do to fix the thing that we really want to fix is nothing is a real challenge. Like, it will be, of all of the things that you do, doing nothing and being with your thoughts is probably going to be the most challenging part of this process. And it is such an incredibly powerful tool in sobriety, because if we're thinking about, oh, I don't know how I'm going to resist a glass of wine here, or a beer's there, or a whiskey there, the skill that we're actually learning in meditation is, I'm going to have to resist everything. I went to a Vipassana meditation retreat here in Bali for 10 days. And I meditated for 10 hours a day for 10 days. And even in between those meditations, we had to be in full silence. We weren't allowed to have eye contact with the other people that were there. So I was completely with my own thoughts for 10 days. And you might be looking at that and thinking, oh God, I could never do that. And you might be thinking, why is he telling me this? Is he just showing off? Not at all. Like, imagine my ability to resist alcohol or drugs if I've been able to resist everything for 10 days, resist speaking. I wasn't allowed to write anything down. There's a part of the meditation called aditana, which is a sitting of strong determination where you can't even move. You have to pick your seat. Wherever you decide to sit, you can choose. And then even if a bit of sweat is dropping down your face or a fly lands on your nose, you just have to allow it. You have to observe it and be like, oh, okay, a fly's landed on my nose. I could wipe it off with my hand, or if I just wait for like 6 seconds, he's probably gonna leave. You wait, you wait, you wait, the fly leaves. So what's the message there? Usually, the majority of our problems will sort themselves out in the fullness of time without us needing to react. Cravings that you have for any kind of drink or drugs, they'll come and go like waves. No emotion lasts forever. That's what meditation teaches us. It's this idea of impermanence. If you think about it right now, you're probably in quite an engaged learning mode if you've got to this part of the video. But there was a time, maybe last week or this year, where you were really fucking sad. You're not that sad right now. There was another time where you were really fucking excited or happy. Maybe that was a little while ago, but you don't feel like that right now. So it doesn't matter how intense a craving is or how intense that feeling to, fuck it, I just want to escape. Fuck it, I'm just going to down a beer. Fuck it, I'm just going to do a line of Coke. It doesn't matter how intense that feeling is. It's not true. You don't actually have to do that. You can go within and observe and validate. You can be like, okay, I hear you. I hear that what you want to do right now is get fucked up. But that doesn't mean that that's what we have to do. And I'm not going to try and change the fact that that's how I feel right now. I'm going to honor that as a feeling, and it's a valid feeling. Right now in this moment, I would love to go and get fucked up, but I'm not going to, and I don't need to, and I don't have to. I can just sit with that, knowing that the less I try to resist that thought and the more I lean into it and observe it, the sooner it will pass. That is really where the game changer of meditation comes in. All right, so where do we go from here? We'll do a quick little recap. So the first one was to take the L, right? You've got to take that L and turn it into a W by ditching the fantasy. And then the second one is to not see it as a choice, to see it as a skill. And this skill can be cultivated by the art of sobriety, which is working on acceptance, resilience, and trust. And then finally, looking at how you can improve your ability to meditate. Because essentially, when you are in meditation, say if I said to you, you have to sit with your thoughts for 10 minutes, you have to accept that for the next 10 minutes, there's nothing that you can do. You just have to allow and accept and surrender to the meditation. To sit there for 10 minutes without moving or acting on any of your thoughts, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to require resilience. To sit there in meditation for 10 minutes, you're just going to have to trust the process. You're going to have to trust this process of meditation. You're going to have to trust that you are going to be resilient enough to sit through it for 10 minutes and that realistically nothing that bad is going to happen. You're going to come out of it after 10 minutes having learned something about yourself, having learned the ability to resist some form of temptation will come up during that 10 minutes for sure. So if any of that has like landed with you and resonated with you and you're thinking, God, he's struck a few chords there, or that was a gecko. There's this side note, in Bali, if you hear a gecko, whatever you're talking about, when the gecko starts to go, means that that's a little message from your higher self. That means whatever that thing that you've just said was really fucking true. And as that happened, I was saying, if there's anything that I've said that struck a chord with you, which means that there fucking was, because the gecko fucking said so, and that you want to have a conversation with me about how you can use those tools and develop those skills of acceptance, resilience, and trust within the program that we have, the 90-day program that we have, and also how I can teach you how to meditate. As part of my journey, aside from going on those meditation retreats, I've also trained as a yoga instructor, a breathwork instructor, and a meditation instructor. And I bring all of those tools of these kind of Eastern practices alongside modern neuroscience and positive psychology, and also just my skills as a coach, to give you a very well-rounded, ancient, modern, East versus West approach to sobriety that is just very different from anything that you would find in books or AA or anything like that. And for a lot of us men, we have this idea that this should be something we could do on our own. But I tell you, brother, once you get inside a community of other successful men who are facing very similar challenges to you in their life, in their business, and their relationships, and they're all trying to work on this one demonic part of their life, of their personality, that when they get past it, like, these gates to their full potential just start to open, and they start to stack wins at work, at home, in their health. It's just a fucking magical environment. I get so passionate about it because I just feel blessed that this is what I get to do for a living. I get to help awesome men like you just put this fucking darkness to bed and live the life that they're supposed to be. So if any of that sounds like something that you want a bit more information on, I have a document I can send over to you. You're gonna need to jump back over to Instagram and drop me a DM saying 555, and then I'll get you over the details of what the program looks like, and we'll have a chat to see if that is gonna be the right solution to you. And it might not be. Like, I haven't designed my approach to be for everyone. It is for a specific type of successful man who have dealt with the challenges of their success by using drink and drugs, and they've seen how that's impacted their potential, their ability to show up at work, their ability to show up in their relationship, and if they have kids, it's probably showing up there as well. So jump back over onto Instagram, drop me a DM saying 555, and we'll have a chat. If not, that's absolutely cool. But what I would also love is, like I said, this has been my first YouTube video, so any feedback, comments, drop them underneath. Anything that you'd like to see some videos of in the future, subscribe to the channel and like it and all of that sort of shit. But really, I'm trying to build this community of successful men that just really want to get a grasp of this fucking drinking demon. So if there's anything that's really showing up for you that you'd like to see some more content on, or trainings like this where I'm using the whiteboard that I'm going to go and buy tomorrow, yeah, I'd just love your feedback. Like, you can see, this isn't a super polished type thing. I'm just sort of freestyling it at this point, and I'm sure it'll get more polished as we go on. But for now, I really appreciate you being here and watching the video. And if anything I've shared here is in any way remotely helped you, then I'm glad I made the video. Peace out. See you in the next one.